What's good, guys? Fantasy Joe back here with our Week 1 wide receiver rankings. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below. Important to hit that subscribe button if you want to bring home that fantasy football championship. I post my weekly rankings, buy lows, sell highs, all the weekly strategy you need to know, how to get those guys right before they jump off to their crazy starts, when to sell your studs high, all that good information to keep you ahead of your league mates. Hit that subscribe button to stay ahead. But let's dive into these week one rankings. Number 1, I've got Jamar Chase against Cleveland. Enough said, it's Jamar Chase. 2, Malik Nabers against Washington. Good matchup for him, and they'll have to score to keep up. 3, Nico Collins against the Rams. 4, Justin Jefferson against Chicago. They had a pretty good defense this last year. 5, Puka Nacua. As long as Matthew Stafford is healthy, Puka is very high in my wide receiver rankings. On a weekly basis, would probably take him above Justin Jefferson even when they're both healthy, but he draws Derek Stingley this week, so I put him down a little bit lower. 6, CeeDee Lamb against Philly. Lamb should be great for fantasy, but he's got a tough matchup this week. 7, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He plays Green Bay. That should be on there. There we go. Brian Thomas Jr. plays Carolina. I got him at number 8. 9, Drake London against Tampa Bay. I think this is going to be, well, at least last year we saw these games end in shootouts, which were great for fantasy. 10, A.J. Brown against Dallas. They should have their way with them in this one. 11, Mike Evans against Atlanta. We touched on that matchup. I expect Mike Evans to be awesome for fantasy football, especially at the beginning of the season as Puka gets his legs underneath him. 12, T. Higgins against Cleveland. T. Higgins dominated on a per-game basis last year. As long as he's healthy, you're playing them. 13, Ladd McConkey against KC. This should be a solid matchup. I think Ladd is going to get a lot of those slot snaps. I do think Keenan hurts him a bit. It'll be interesting to see what the target, how they're dispersed between Keenan and Ladd. But I still am very high on Ladd for this week in KC. Tyreek Hill against Indy. He should get a ton of targets. We'll see how things work out season long there for him in Miami. 15, Devontae Adams against Houston. Stingley could be on him. There's possible they try that, but I think he'll probably be on Puka. But we'll get to see, what happens in that offense and how we see the targets dispersed there as well. 16, we've got JSN against San Francisco. I think he'll get the rock a lot in this offense, similar to Teteroa McMillan, who plays Jacksonville. Great matchup for him, and I think he should get the rock quite a bit. Cortland Sutton plays Tennessee. They do have Snead there, a good cornerback who I expect to be on Sutton for sure. But Sutton's one of those guys you're still going to take your chance on. Has a great chance at catching a touchdown with his connection with Bo Nix. At 19, we've got Xavier Worthy, who should see a lot more targets with Rasheed Rice suspended and them having to keep up with this Chargers offense. That should be pretty formidable. 20, we got DK Metcalf against the Jets. Should get a ton of targets on this Pittsburgh offense with Aaron Rodgers there. 21, Terry McLaurin against the Giants. Normally, I would have him a little bit higher. The only reason that I have him where I do is coming off of, just sitting out training camp, some things like that. I think he might get off to a slightly slower start, although I do think it's a great matchup. 22, Emeka Egbuka against Atlanta. I think he's going to be awesome to start the season. With Chris Godwin out, I think he'll be the number 2 wide receiver on that team. I think he has a chance to finish number 1 by the end of the season. 23, Jerry Jeudy against Cincinnati. This should be really good for Jerry Jeudy starting the season with Joe Flacco. Should get double-digit targets, and they will need to score to keep up with Cincinnati. 24, Zay Flowers against Buffalo. Another one that should be good for the offenses involved, so Zay should be a good fantasy play. 25, we got Marvin Harrison Jr. against New Orleans. No one in New Orleans really scares me as far as stopping Marv. It's just how much are they going to need to throw in the second half of that one, some things like that. And are we going to see him come out and be a target hog like he needs to be to pay off on his ADP, which I think is certainly in the realm of possibility for him. 26, Garrett Wilson. He plays Pittsburgh. I think he'll get a lot of targets, but I'll worry about the quarterback play in New York there for him. Devonta Smith against Dallas. Again, they should be able to do whatever they want. 28, George Pickens against Philly. They do have some tough corners there. Good pass rush, obviously, in Philly, so that's why he's a little lower on the list. 29, Calvin Ridley. He plays Denver. Pat Surtain, obviously. A bunch of really talented players in their secondary as well as their front seven. They have a great defense all the way around. 30, Rome Odunze against Minnesota. I think he'll be the number 1 wide receiver there this year. 31, we've got Jameson Williams against Green Bay. This should be a high-scoring game, so Jameson Williams, also Green Bay secondary, nobody really there. They're relying on that front seven to generate pressure. 32, Matthew Golden in the same contest. We saw Detroit secondary be a weakness for them last year. I expect Golden to be the number one wide receiver and get a ton of volume early. Travis Hunter against Carolina. I don't think they have anybody who can really, scares me as far as matchups. And I think they'll try to give Travis Hunter the ball early. I think he is a good player. 34, DJ Moore against Minnesota. They've said they're going to use him more in a gadget-like role this year. This will be interesting to see for him. And 35, we got Jalen Waddle against Indy. Again, I've talked about it. I think he'll end up being the more valuable wide receiver on the Miami Dolphins by the end of the season just because the vibes are so bad there with Tyreek Hill. I think he's a good chance he's off the roster. And Jalen Waddle is a good receiver. 36, Ricky Pearsall against Seattle. This one I really like, especially in daily contests, things like that. He should get the lion's share of the work. Jawan Jennings is back, new contract, reworked. Some things to increase his incentives for him this year, but still hasn't been in camps, been banged up. I expect Ricky to get a lot of work, him and George Kittle through the passing game. And then another shout-out, I normally do 36 wide receivers, but Romeo Doubs is a great play in this matchup against Detroit. Jaden Reed likely going to be battling some injuries. I think Romeo Doubs has a chance to be the number one wide receiver, him or Matthew Golden. I would bet on Golden, but Doubs should be very involved, and they're going to need him in the passing game. And like I said, that Detroit secondary has been a weakness for them in recent years. If you guys have made it to this point in the video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, drop them in the comment section down below. If you guys have any start sits, running backs versus wide receivers or something like that, drop it down below and I got you guys. I'll respond. And check out my running back rankings as well. This has been Fantasy Joe. Thank you guys so much for watching.